their data for the crypto has been really good. Really, a really smooth and consistent, yielding consistent pattern matches. So that's why I'm going to start with it. And so this is Bitcoin, folks. I made a bunch of rumblings about saying that there's nothing under these lows, and that I mean, I'm really surprised that we even held this. Um, Interesting thing about what has gone on with this particular pattern match and the bat pattern that we see, which I really think is the true harmonic of the moment. Let me bring this up like that and just remove the indicators for a second. Focus on the pattern itself. No denying that really the challenge with Bitcoin is to describe and identify properly what are we looking at here? What is the real harmonic pattern structure? What are the true levels that we need to pay attention to? I've gone through probably a dozen different data feeds and 8 different platforms that I have that I can run personally as a part of my own research. That's something I really don't talk too much about. That I ended up for me just last week becoming the real critical factor were the triggers of HSI. Really not going to get into it too much other than saying that we're looking for in terms of the software, and this is something I want to be really clear about of how I'm looking at harmonic patterns is letting the software define what are harmonic patterns. These couldn't be drawn differently. And yes, if you just do the standard high-low measurement W's and M formations, you might have slightly different things. What I'm using is really the proprietary optimized algorithms and using those levels exclusively with confirmation triggers. In terms of these arrows, the pink arrows are related to HSI, Harmonic Strength Index. And this is a type 1 trade. And so that sets us up for that move to 42,641. Okay, but there are other things going on here. Now, I want everyone to know I put out a note. I said 42,000 was the target. And then I put out another note that said, let's look a little higher, 47.5. And I want to walk through why. But we're still in a type 1 trade here. And I think we're going to, despite a very impressive several days, you're going to need more consolidation. And I do think this can grind higher as it gets there. But I think we've established the fact that this 886 and this 29,900 level is a real is it. I mean, is absolutely it. And I wouldn't want to go past this for now, other than just saying that this is a reaction off of the bat pattern. It's an unusual triple bottom. And again, it's something where it hasn't been generated. And I understand that. There's a comment here that's on, we're looking, and I'll go over to that software version, that it's not available on TradingView, the TradingView version. This isn't really getting generated off of every harmonic pattern platform that I see due to data differences and other time differences. It's been tricky. It's no doubt been tricky. I'm trying to define what is the true harmonic going on here? And that can give us this levels, because preceding this, we did have a bunch of ABCDs across the board on those, where the 50,350 was our first ABCD, and we had a sloppy retest of that. But from a larger framework perspective, it gives you some clear levels. The other part of this whole harmonic phenomenon is the target 2 level off of that ABCD at 33,164. Call it 33,165. Those are critical column super optimized harmonic levels. that was similar things on all the harmonic pattern collection versions. It is just the importance of recognizing the immediate pattern and the prior bearish pattern. Prior bearish pattern is now a completed type 2 reversal. The thing that really completes, starting from this larger retest up here, is look, you've taken out this trend line. And the type 2 reversal takes longer, but that's it. You're done. Whatever this was off of that secondary test at 60, that's done. And what really got my interest were these HSI triggers that just came in. So check my Twitter feed and some of the things I was saying of why we needed to get on that. And it gave a nice thrust. A real nice initial move off of that trigger is important. That helps to give us, kind of something to go on now for a reactive move. Dude, last week you were calling for a dump. Yeah, I was calling for a dump last week, or 2 weeks ago, because we didn't have any triggers of HSI. And I'm still not saying that this is anything more than a sharp reactive move, where we go up to 42, maybe as high as 47.5 on this reaction move out of this zone. I understand you're totally fair to say that, and maybe you don't follow, maybe you're not a gold member, or maybe you don't follow my Twitter stuff every day. But if you go look at my Twitter feed, you'll see the stuff that I put up and why I was saying it, and why I had to recognize that for what it was, which was, yes, you got a trigger. Finally, you got an HSI trigger. And okay, you could say, all right, Scott, that's your HSI. I wouldn't have that in any other indicator. Well, standard RSI completed back on this last test as well. It just didn't do anything. Here's standard RSI. So again, I still recommend that, hey, if you want to stick with just standard RSI, it's a reliable indicator, and you're going to get maybe not as many signals, but they'll be clear. And this signal for that oversold on the daily did come in on that crash. It's just this thing consolidated and did nothing until we got HSI triggers. So the other thing about what has happened since, I guess, the last several weeks of what I've done and these triggers is we've got this initial thrust, and we now have our first counter HSI. That's at around 40,600. And for me, how I would read that is just say, okay, we're in a pause. I still want to see target one get tested. And then I'm going to switch back to the trading view version here in a minute. But again, this is just a reaction trade, and there's what we're targeting here is not only the bat, but there's also a shark pattern that I've mentioned before. Let me go to that, and let's just look at that. I mean, I get it, and I still think that crypto has a lot of work to do. If they can't hold this 29,000, and it eventually fails this bat, which is a scenario which I think can happen within the harmonic pattern framework, this stuff takes time. But for now, you've got a lot of triggers where at least you can get a nice oversold rally. It's funny. I mean, I don't expect people to follow me all the time and see every update or everything, but there's reasons behind why I put out what I put out. It's important to understand that. Let me see if I can get this. 1 second. Oh, well, let me do it this way. Let me come back this second since I'm locked on this window. And so I want, it's important also to highlight why the framework is so critical. That's why I do think within the framework of harmonic patterns of how they play out, reaction and reversal, that's why we could get this move. So, and someone saying, sir, can you refer a person from the Facebook group who has doubts about the harmonic framework? Sure. The best place to go, again, is to get the basic membership. Sign up for the basic membership and study the material. I know that the harmonic patterns are at a point where everyone's teaching the measurements and they know it. They're easy to replicate. That's cool. And I do think the majority of people are getting the measurements right, which is really important because if you're not presenting the proper measurements, then you're just selling random nonsense. And you see it in the software. I mean, there's rip-off harmonic pattern software, and you see it where you don't get the matches. You don't get, you obviously you see these patterns that it don't work. Whereas the stuff that I'm showing you and that's getting generated automatically is the consistent application that I do of harmonic pattern identification for my decision making. That's it's a really important kind of a deep subject that probably could spend a whole hour on, and a lot of it relates to avoiding subjectivity in your identification process. Again, I still think that manually measuring is a great way to go, but for trading opportunities is something that can be really reliable, are defining the levels that I need. So, I mean, here's one. This is Internet Computer. This thing's been killed, but a great little day trading vehicle. Beautiful crab pattern on a 5 minute. There's been a lot of these opportunities, folks. Again, um, day trading, really, short-term stuff, but great opportunities to capture swing moves like that. This is just one, but let's look at the Bitcoin thing because it's just relate that from what we're looking at on that stock charts platform. Now, here's the um, harmonic pattern collection for TradingView. And let's just look at the Bitcoin situation relative to what we looked at on the daily platform for stock charts. And go to daily and let's just take a quick look where we are. Again, I think most standard technical analysis technicians would say pretty clear line in the sand of historic support right at 30K. I mean, 30K, everyone can say that. And a lot of people arguing massive head and shoulders, which, yeah, you have a right shoulder formation. You do have it. I think TradingView's got their little head and shoulders. Yeah, here you go. I mean, you have this, no doubt, formation taking shape. The right shoulder, where does the right shoulder go? I did a thing in volume 3 that said harmonic head and shoulders should have reciprocal ratios. So what does that mean? Well, look at it this way. Your left shoulder, if that's whatever that ratio will be, if that's more than a 1.618 or a 2.0, if that's extreme, okay, which this is, that's a 2.618 almost. Call it a 2.24. That this corresponding ratio should basically match, and that'll be a 3.82, but can't exceed a 3.82. That's 42K. So that's a harmonic head and shoulders, folks. So still 42K, you could go as high as 42K, still be completing the right side of that shoulder and still drop down. And that would be, I think, pretty clear analysis. Sure. But a lot of times those right shoulders fail. And how will we know? We'll know in probably one more month. I think we're going to see some change here. The ironically um, the trigger that I got, which was on the stock charts program of that bat pattern, was exactly 30 days after 30 days from the crash. And I said that the 30-day window, we use that, okay, and when we just kind of analyzing sections of price action. Well, the crash came, what was that, the 18th of May? 19th of May. The corresponding retest low was almost exactly 30 bars. There's your 30 bar, came in. And then the next 30 bar was the 20th. Fairly cyclical. So that's one argument for Bitcoin on, the whole, within this whole narrative of everything that's been dropped on its foot, really. We're a long way gone in terms of narratives and the rosy garden that was a few months ago. But here's the harmonic scene. I'm all about ratio combinations with ABCD structures, MW formations, impulse 1618s. And I showed you the bat pattern. That was the one variation. The other one is the shark. And so, okay, here's a quick question. Which peak do we rip off of? Do we go here or here? And I would say usually stick with your closest leg formation. Go with what works, but if you've got an option, that's a pretty good type formation there. The shark pattern, this ABC segment of that shark, should really represent a breakdown, like a failed divergence. Why? Because if this is so weak up here, it's obvious that becomes a 1618 minimum. That's how to think about it. And this does a 1618 down to your 886 on the crash. 886 is right there. And so, if you say shark, then we will go to a 5-0, right? That's how we treat it. And we're looking for something to at least give us the early sign that could happen, of the 5-0 being this 50% reactive kind of bounce. That's how you get to 47. And again, the critical thing to think about from a harmonic perspective is that this is a reactive structure. And so I put out the 42 number. We've got a few other things I'll get to in a second, but and then bump to the 47 because it is a 50 minimum. Now the thing here is that that could happen quickly, and it could be a quick wick, and this then not spend much time up here, come up there, and that would be almost the limit. The other reason is you have that reciprocal ABCD. So you take this segment, which is your B, that's ABC here. Okay, so you just take this last segment, that's the first A to B for what we call reciprocal ABCD, and just project that off the low. So from that B to C there, that was what, 50 to 49 to 65, so that's 15,000 off the low. And we use that as just a general approximation metric, where this kind of counter trend move, and it's still a counter trend move. So I don't think it's, I think there's probably some misinterpretation in terms of what it's really trying to get at. We're out of this sideways consolidation. We have we have a nice bull push up. I just think it's going to be a reactive push that, at a minimum, I want to see how this acts once we get up there. 42, yes. 47 probably to resolve the whole Shark 50 phenomenon, and then beyond that, I would expect a pullback, and then we get the make or break. Do we, from that midpoint there, do we come back down, do one more retest, or is that the rollover because a whole bunch of other SHI, is going to hit the fan for unknown reasons? It just has that. This whole market environment has this overhang on it. It seems. Um, just remarkable times. I'll say that. But from a price action perspective, that's the larger formation for Bitcoin. And you go to the 4-hour chart. So this is the pattern most of the harmonic pattern collection folks have on the 4-hour. Is we have back-to-back patterns. I'm going to remove the drawings. And so now we're digesting this Gartley. We did have a smaller Gartley down here that was auto-generated right off the hop at 29,781. And that was a real nice one. It's kind of ugly off of that ABCD Gartley there. But it was auto-generated. If mathematically, that's the other thing you have to understand is that mathematically the harmonic measurements, if we get a match, it's because mathematically it satisfied the algorithms. And I say that because everything that I've been trying to do for decades, but mostly in the last 5 years, is to refine and consistently identify the proper harmonic levels and go off of them and treat that within the reaction reversal framework. So we have a bearish Gartley. XA level 786 is at 38.6. Your terminal bar where the pattern completes is 39,850. Okay, we've traded as high as almost 41. Pretty nice, and we're just doing a harmonic pause, going sideways after a really strong move into the zone. It did not follow through. So a lot of important things to kind of note. It just slammed right into that zone and just went flat. So you're still technically in a type 1, and this could bounce around in here. Maybe just go sideways, where we could see as possibly as low as 35,550, and then come back up. That's the thing. We've been really crazy wick. This thing's has been wicking around quite a bit. I think we're going to grind and do that and be volatile, but this 35,000 really going forward has to be the type 1 target support that has to hold. Then we get up to 42,000 and see what we do up there. Take a look at the indicators. Really strong move, which is especially the bottom RSI indicator on amplified. It cleared out all of the prior readings. You go way back here. You did an above a 100 reading on amplified RSI. So amplified RSI is another proprietary indicator that it's kind of putting it on steroids. That indicator really helps us to see in detail what RSI is trying to show us. And this is a big reading that says, okay, potentially there's a lot of strength behind that move. Despite the pattern and a real nice pause here, okay, the first RSI move always is the initial move, is quite strong. So let it come down. And what I'm looking for is, again, a RSI retest to come back down here. Notice the red line just went on. Okay, right there. This is Bitstamp feed. And price is just going sideways. That's pure consolidation right there. All the signs of consolidation where 35, 550 from a structural level is about it. That's why we don't expect more than a reaction. But the trigger to get this thing going where you get above to back to 42 or above it is you get RSI to come down and then bounce out. And that would happen probably, come down a little bit to target 1, register it with an HSI, and then go higher. And this is, it's pretty close to even HSIs. This is holding up firmly. That's the other interesting thing to note on a 4-hour chart. HSI could come down and give you another trigger, and then it could go higher. So that's the thing to look for over the weekend. Yeah, guys, 2 quick notes. If you're not getting the pattern match on the 4-hour, this is coming up on most pattern feeds, but take a look at my right column here. I list about 10 different Bitcoin feeds because they're different. It's not a regulated exchange. I don't think people understand that enough, that the slight differences in the data, that's important. From a harmonic pattern perspective, you might not get the same matches generated. So take a look at 2 or 3. Like I was looking at Bitstamp. Coinbase is a good feed. There's FTX. That's a pretty good exchange. There's Coinbase. Coinbase has it too. They're real fat Gartley. Binance. Again, you guys can see the patterns. These are all auto-generated patterns, and you see the type 1, type 2 retest framework. And again, my focus is just respecting what the software's showing me. And so now consolidation, let's see how that shapes up. But it's in a good position where we trigger this next little pullback on on amplified RSI. That will set you up for an eventual return. You'll not only complete the bullish RSI band, but you'll then have to come back and retest this large reading. Really important to understand where we are in that process. It fits well within the framework. That was my point about all of these updates about where we are within all of this. Look, on the 4-hour chart, that traces out to be a really nice Gartley. But HSI, it's starting to roll over, but it hasn't triggered yet. Amplified, that's rolled over, and that's on the daily, but it hasn't triggered yet. So need to watch out what this does. Ideally, to fail it and to get it really going, you need to see a lift off this weekend and go up and just continue the grind higher. It doesn't have to do fireworks. It just needs to continue the grind higher. How do you select the large pattern? Easiest way. So when you're loading for Harmonic Pattern Collection Lite for TradingView, what you want to do is you go in there to indicators, you go to the invite only scripts and hit the M and W, and you're going to add like 2 or 3 of those. And then you go in and hit to the settings here. Go to your inputs and right at the top, regular, large, small. Those are presets defined. Different lengths of patterns. Again, this is all to try to optimize what we're working with the Pine script. So that's the plan, folks. 35.50 on the downside, 42 probably soon, and then 47. And then 47, I'm going to take a hard look. All right, really quick. Ethereum, sure. I put out a note on Cardano last night as well, and it's a similar situation. If you can get Cardano anywhere under 15, I think, or not Cardano, Polkadot, anywhere under 15 for a reaction up to 30 or 35. That's, again, I'll go through that in a second. Here's Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is starting to roll over. This is the Binance feed, and we're going to probably see HSI and Amplified trigger this weekend. So you have some things to watch out for, at least where this could consolidate further or start think about a retest. Here on the 4 hour, the last pattern you had, this is an auto match, really nice shark. And the shark pattern, again, right down there at the hop level at around 1900. Kind of sloppy, but look, once you broke the trend line, and that's been, I think, something with a lot of these moves lately where it's respecting the trend. Once you break out, you get nice continuations. And this one is already at target 2, which is 2360. Not going through target 2, but I'll be looking at this. Again, you got a lot of things setting up here where Ethereum could at least give you more of a pause, come back down, and it's pretty clear, at least with the multiple patterns down here at around 1700, 1750, you're really squeezed. You're squeezed between about 2400 maximum on the top side and 1700 on the downside. So we got to. I just think it's going to take some time. It's better than failing. It's definitely better than failing. Here on the daily, let's take a look at that longer term chart. What you're looking for in the months to come is just hold your head up. Don't drown. I don't care if this does nothing for 3 months. Just don't lose your head. Don't go below 1700 on this. I mean, you're really pushing it already. To play catch up with the trend line, and this does happen quite a bit. Think of it this way, like you just grind sideways and you need to buy time. That's the way I think about it. It's still holding the uptrend, the larger trend, but you need an adjustment period to basically kind of before you can even assume this thing's going to get going. It's just there's so many things, so many little things about Ethereum that it did on that last move. The last little ditch down for me was really troubling structurally. The crash here was really troubling because of the way that the price bar ended up, and then taking out that prior low. So again, I'm looking for Ethereum. Maybe we come back as high as 27 or 29, but we're going to have to do a lot of work to get there. Deep crab on the 8 hour for Ethereum. Yeah, I agree with that. There's the 4 hour. I think the 12 hour has been a good time frame to look at longer term. Good one for indicators as well. Here is the Polkadot. Again, I'm in this. This is one that I'm currently in, and I have re-entered some positions for the first time about a week ago or 3-4 days ago. And this is one where Polkadot really got crushed. Go to the daily, and you just have a big shark. The interesting thing that Polkadot has that some of the majors do have is that the pattern we're dealing with is exclusively for 2021. Hey, Rich, send me an email. and I'll get you set up. If you're asking about the gold membership, um, if you should have gotten, I think, 30 days. And if you want access for the gold membership to check that out, send me a note, harmonictrader@gmail, and I'll set you up. But check out what's going on with Polkadot. So if we go from the low, the 2021 low, we have a really mathematically a perfect shark structure. There's your XA, there's B. Now C point takes out A at like a 1065. And that's enough. Came all the way back down and check it out. 886, 1618. Spot on, right? 1175, call it 12 bucks. So that is coming off of there quite nicely. And that as well, I would look for a 5-0 reaction. And I think this could do a hard pop up to that 5-0 and then go back down for a retest, something like that. But that puts you back to about 30, roughly. 35 is the 1618. But it's shaping up quite nicely. You've got amplified RSI for the first time breaking above some new highs, and you have some really nice divergence that was confirmed at those lows. So that's, again, just looking for some counter trend bounces that this thing got washed out. Looks like that's about it that they can do for now. That's the other way to look at it. Here's XRP. And boy, I really think this thing is a poster child for, the same kind of all-time patterns for looking on the all-time charts here. Right off on the daily, probably weekly's better. I think this is like this. Because this was a 618. Yeah, pretty sure. There you go. This is perfect. That was it. So that's a perfect Gartley, folks. That's Bitfinex on a weekly. And no surprise that we're seeing that stabilize at 56. Not so much, not it has a Gartley formation because your B point is at a 618. But we're looking for the 786 there to hold. And this is, stabilizing quite nicely at a whole super base, as I like to call it, from David Ryan and William O'Neill, Investors Business Daily. That's where super bases come from. That's what XRP is. It's an adaptation or kind of an expanded take on Wyckoff's structural basing formations. But this is, talk about jump across the creek or across the spring, if you will, and then have the retest. Beautiful base completion, breakout, retest, get ready to go. And I think this, like a lot of these that did not get the full realization of getting to the 886, their all-time reading, is still in play. I mean, that's still, it's probably going to take on a new W formation, something like this for XRP, where you could start looking for the C point and say, all right, maybe like bang it like off the low, go to your B point, and look at that, setting you up almost at the 618 tolerance, and then that at recent low at a almost perfect 786 there takes you back up to, for an all-time Gartley, at 265. That's how I would think about it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but from a framework perspective, if I was looking for a move in XRP and looking for an entry point and thinking about where this could possibly go, That's how the formation lines up. That this is a likely C point, and your 786 and D point off the all-time high will get you eventually up there. It's going to take time. It's what are you talking? 3 years. There's probably a better chart, better feed. Yeah, there's Binance. A little bit different. Again, notice how we go off the all-time feed. That's great, but if we go off something that doesn't have all the all-time feed, it looks different. There's Binance that doesn't have all the data. Really important to be aware of that. So let's do one or two more things. Let's look at, because we can look at this on just with the crypto here. Cardano. Now Cardano, what's that, weekly? Let's go to the daily chart. Thing about Cardano is, where are the daily closes, weekly closes happening? This thing, every time it comes to push down at $1, it doesn't spend much time there. And in fact, it doesn't spend much time under $1.20. So if this thing pushes down under 120 again, probably another pop-up buy. Here's the 4-hour chart. There's a nice deep crab at the moment. This is Cardano. It's the 4-hour. Type 1 reaction. So looking for some smaller pattern or something. Get us a trigger back up to, the XA for the second retest. Notice how we hit target 1 at 125 and just continue sideways. So generally, there's a trade there in Cardano to retest this hop level. So it's this is called the type 2 return trade. We talked about this in our seminar last month, what we look for. I would love to see something come down, maybe a retest again. Give me a Gartley, give me a bat pattern. There you go. There's the hourly chart. That's on your Binance feed. So maybe one more retest of the bat on the hourly at 121. And that will get you going within this larger framework. That's always a good sign. When you get a type 1 reaction and then you get another pattern in between, yeah, chances are you're going to get the type 2 retest. I mean, this fits in really nice with the 1-2. Again, type 1 reaction down to target 1. Yeah, okay, forms this bat pattern. We will eventually get back, retest minimum 1618 at XA here at 138.39. Maybe as high as the hop, 148. But you're probably, here we are, end of July, about early August. Maybe you're going to just do a quick 1-2. Type 1 reaction off of that bat, maybe one more, and then you go. That kind of a thing. The type 1, type 2 within that deep crab, those kind of back-to-back situations you should not ignore them. In crypto, I find them with crypto even more significant. It's a lot like this, this internet computer thing, okay? This caught my eye a few weeks ago. When everything was crashing, I was just checking out all the 886s. And I think I mentioned this to members. And this bat pattern, just a clear M formation. I mean, it's really, if you're looking at M and W patterns on charts, and this is a pretty clear one. Not ideal. It wasn't an automated match either, but just from an M and W just standing out as an M formation, I think it's pretty clear that that's kind of a bat structure like that. So been looking at this, does this come back down to a retest? this was a relatively new one that was like 500 or something. I bring out the whole history there. Actually, let me show you on the daily. You know, and I have some of this, so a little disclosure statement that I have a position in this right now. Um, but I'm gonna see if this thing's gonna get going now, continue, or are we gonna have a retest? And that would be fine. If we get the retest, I would look to re-enter. Uh, but maybe that's even better. I don't want to take my eye off this thing because it's starting to base. And you spend a good 30 days, 60 days going sideways, and you start to build from there. It wouldn't take much to get this thing back to 100 or 150. That's there's several of these that are like that I again, here's the other one is the graft. I mentioned this before, and actually this was the one of the ones I mentioned a while back that represented everything about the M and the all-time M and W formation that you have, just unfolding after a big parabolic run. You're now just getting the M formation, depending on what the B point is, will dictate if it's an 886 for a bat or a 786 with the Gartley. There you go. That's the Binance feed. And so the graft here just parked at the 886 at 52.50. Anything under 52 cents, 53 cents is absolutely probably, possibly the start of the first higher low, and then you move out of that zone. Early stages here, folks, but these are all-time patterns on these charts and the daily stuff that are significant unto themselves. When you see an all-time, especially stuff like an IPO, IPOs will do this in the stock market. We want to look at stuff like this, and not all of these have done the 886 resets, and we'll see what happens, but a lot of them are responding. Here's that Kyber network KNC. Look, exact 886. We've already hit it. And all the other metrics are shaped up there where, okay, if it's going to stabilize off of this level, then I want to pay attention. It's, look at, there's Coinbase. So really nice. And this is another one where the pattern, even if you measured it just off of the low, let's call it the pattern for 2021, just using data from this year alone, it's even clearer that this thing has the 886 that needed to get hit was hit, and you're starting to stabilize. So really, things like that are just sticking out big time. Here's Link, and that's a big shark. Oh, look at that pop at 21. See, that's the thing I think we're going to start seeing, folks. You saw Bitcoin do a nasty short assassination of the shorts, like 6 days in a row. Here's Link, and I do think Link already did. Let's trace this out. Link is a type 250 already completed. Already completed right now. Now, trace it out. Here you go from the low of basically 2021. There you go, first day of trading. We can use that, say what's the pattern for this year, and then trace out the rest of these. And all of that, 886 everything was at 1550. You're now 21. What happened on the first bounce, and again, this is a great one for just to run through, but should be what you should be thinking about on these other ones that have these 5-0s, is this one had the move. There's your first bounce up to the 50 level, almost perfect 50-50 level. That's the thing Bitcoin's trying to do at the moment, just taking more time. Come back for the type 2 retest. Where was it? Is that it? Perfect. Yeah, it's below that prior low, but it's the full retest. So now what? Well, just with the 5-0 basis, it has two targets. You either go back, retest B at 34, or you do a full 886, which turns into another shark. So you see how harmonic formations are coming together, that it's not going to take more than a handful of more days to get these structures locked in. So, be mindful of that. If they do bounce here, they've got a ways to go. I just think you're going to be sharp, reactive moves that are going to require aggressive management to realize the size of them. Otherwise, they'll probably do something like this. When we get linked to get going, we're about to break out above that 21 level. Probably pops up, does a BAM move up to, say, 34, 35 in short order. And by the time, you realize that, hey, this thing's really waking up, it's too late. But it comes up and then maybe smacks right back down. So definitely keep your eye on this crypto sector for this kind of corrective, sharp response move that you want to see spread out to other pairs, and get this thing going. You want to see Bitcoin lead the charge. And don't worry that it's only 39,000 right here. Again, go back to the 4-hour chart. And let's resolve this Gartley right now. That's the thing, that the whole space and everything for crypto comes down to this zone and resolving this Gartley. You break out above 42 in dramatic fashion, which I think could happen because you don't have too much really fighting this. We will see. It would be even better if it comes down, get to like 35, and then just type 1 reaction, and then launch off of that type 1 and go. So it's a really interesting spot right now. Again, I think if you can get a type 1 retest, you hit that number, and then you launch, that's how a lot of patterns fail. And then you default, we go to the daily time frame. And stick on the daily time frame, because I think with the consolidation of the last 60 days in particular, it's telling you there's more force at work than just an intraday chart. There's daily, weekly factors here that are in play now that were not before. And I even think, and again, the word of this move is reactive. And I think even in a conservative estimate, you could have just a quick 1618 reaction off of that down move that puts you, again, your 1618 is 4960, just off of that last downward thrust move. So I'll come back next week. Again, I'm glad we caught up on the crypto. The other markets that gold members, we talk about NASDAQ, stuff like that. We'll get into that next week. We're just scraping our top end resistance across the board. So we'll talk about that more next week. But appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the patience on the tech issues. And come on back next Friday, a little after 1 o'clock. Subscribe to the channel to get the notification. And then send me an email at harmonictrader@gmail.com. Best place to catch me. Thanks again. Have a great weekend and go get them.